What is one thing that most leaders don't understand about capacity?
When we're explaining, that's a good question. When we're explaining capacity, people always are making the assumption that capacity equals time. And that's what they think about the professional team that's working for them, which is, do they have capacity? Do they have more time in their day actually to do more work? So people are thinking about capacity as how much work can you do? And it actually is way more complicated than that, and it's because of the human factor. So a lot of people we teach capacity that have been through a lot of our education on that know what MELT is. So that's how we define professional capacity. It's MELT, MELT. And MELT stands for something. It stands for mind, emotions, location, and time. And the mind and emotion of capacity, we try to teach them that you have human team, especially in professional services or any kind of service-based business. That business is always scaling with humans. You're always leveraging a human's ability to do output. And so they're often unaware of the fact that humans are not machines. Now, of course, they know that, but they treat this capacity output calculation, sometimes on a spreadsheet, like a human is a machine, and they're not. Humans are creative. They're very distracted a lot of times. Some are efficient. Some love calendar work blocking. Some hate it. Some have ADHD like me. Some are very focused. Some can multitask really well and you're surprised. I have a one-track mind when I get into one thing. So all of these things are embodied in a human. And so a human's capacity is defined by MELT. And so the mind is a focused, an ability to not be distracted in your work. Now, emotions, the mind and emotions are very personal to that person. It's not something an owner that's leading that team in a company can control. We don't have any control over the ME of MELT. The emotion is where typically they're struggling, right? They're going through layers of struggle in their life. Like, we care about single parents. We care about somebody going through a divorce or somebody getting married, somebody about to have a baby. All of these things matter in the emotional, ability of capacity and the output of that person. Now, the LT of MELT is location and time. And so a lot of firms, a lot of service-based companies, more than a lot of industries, can be virtual. They can work virtually, and a lot of them did that throughout the pandemic. We've been virtual for a decade, so we've been practicing working virtually. And so the location of a person actually matters, and most of the team work at home. And homes are known to be very distractible places, especially when they have other partners, spouses, and kids in the same home. A lot of times that location matters. Now, we've asked team to please work in another location, work in a place where you're not distracted. Location can help the output. When I'm doing a particular kind of creative work, when I'm doing lessons for a conference that I'm teaching or webinars, I go and do those in my office alone on Saturday. That's my location. That's where I do it. That's where I book that time. And it's because I know my output will become very strong. And then, of course, time matters. And that's if you have a part-time person or a full-time person, all of this matters. Or if they're on vacation, they just don't have as much time. And so you have to know the capacity output of a person with limited time, or if they're an executive, sometimes the expectation of them working 40 to 50 hours a week, or if they're on a management team to just say, your role requires you to do whatever and deal with all emergencies. That's a little bit of a broadness in their time capacity. And so all of these, you can basically think of a MELT score, and we do MELT discounting, right? So if there's a perfect human and they're a robot, they're running on 100% on their MELT score. Nobody is, so we say when you discount team members by MELT, you want to discount the percentage of that person, and we always want to start with a 5 to 7% discount on that MELT when you're thinking about the MELT discount on a team member. And it's also true that the MELT discount changes, right? Because they're human, they're going through different things, their mind, their emotion, their location changes, their ability to commit time. That changes from day to day, week to week, month to month. Season to season, matters, right? In the summer when kids come home from school or whatever, when the kids go back to school, all of this matters as far as how their melt changes. And these are surprising to people when we define professional capacity in this way. And then one other thing I'll say about melt is that it is done by person. So when you're doing capacity management, the one thing people need to understand is that you're not tracking capacity for a company. Does this company have capacity? Capacity in service organizations is always talked about in light of an individual. So an individual has a certain melt score, a melt discount. So it's done by humans, by the human person, which means it takes a lot. It takes leaders that are committed to their team to really focus in and care about the melt tracking and the melt scoring of each person, knowing where they stand, knowing how they feel, and helping them be successful and continue to do what we all want, which is a team member to focus, be efficient, and produce revenue as quickly and as high valued as possible.